tell Dr. Kasangaki to say what he wants. Someone at the level of Dr. Kasangaki, you don't ask him a question.
You don't ask grandfathers questions. Because they are supposed to be right. Thank you very much, Oscar. Thank you very much, Lydia and the panelists. Once upon a time in this country, we had a utility called the Land Electricity Board, UEP, which was vertically integrated. It managed distribution, transmission, and generation. And at some stage, the sector was run down, and the government made a decision to unbundle UEP. And to do that, they needed a legal framework. So the Electricity Act of 1999 came into play. And the sector was going to distribution regarding from civil company, national company, and the national company. UDCA was given all the distribution network below the important certificate. So it is not true that Umeme owned the network. The network was owned by UDCL. And therefore UDCL took a specific interest in what went on. So that was their network. They were the owners of the network. When we are appointed as regulators, we appointed Mr. Ben Dramadri, who was the former PS, Natural Resources, as chairman. They appointed Mr. Mr. Kasuja, the former MD of the South African Development Bank, no Uganda Development Bank. He appointed the late Noah King as a member. Engineer Tufubira Frederick as a member, and he was Kuro as a member. You notice that none of the five had worked in the sector directly. And therefore, the new vision then said they didn't expect any good result out of this board. So they were inexperienced, and they were led by a tired, former retired civil servant. They couldn't perform. Luckily enough, the prevention unit wanted us help from Norway. What was the protocol? No. There was a government body which gave us help in building capacity. NVE, building capacity. And therefore we were taken to Oslo, to meet, but we built capacity. After the truth, when we came back, we had appointed, later we were appointed at Sebo, we sent him to South Africa. And he came and convinced us to become members of African Forum Utility Regulators, a forum. They were surprised. Our chairman, when they spoke so well, they became chairman.
Just like that.
So this is the first people we became. And to date, I'm happy to hear that we are leaders of the continent. Congratulations. What we forget, however, is that we came from very far. At the time UITSA was formed, or ERA was put in place, the government told us, the president said he wanted cost-effective tariff, because at the time the tariff was about 20 cents to 8 cents shillings per unit, and was heavily subsidized. And we said we must remove the subsidies from the tariff. So we embarked on the tariff, we announced one, and the public objected. And when we announced, we didn't even go to the project minister. We said we are an independent regulator, we make a decision and we must stand by it. So our chairman called a press conference and announced the president had these tariffs, they were losing his favor. He said we'll go back to the bush to fight this regulator. I'm glad to note that this regulator has given him the platform to celebrate. Thank you very much. Now, many things have happened. when we are negotiating the concession for Mene, you realize we don't have capacity. We are doing this for the first time as a country. And the government was anxious to get this done. So if you brought technical issues and you asked what are the losses, can we measure them? They said you are bringing Zinga. Precious Zinga was I hope people know what Zinga is. Yeah. So we quickly moved. But the tariff, the loss rate of 38% was a midway between. We have reported and so that we can work on. It works in favor of Umeme, and that's why they didn't want to be prepared to pay meters, because if you meter, you meter the technical losses and the commercial losses, and you know where the problem is. So Umeme was happy to collect, because we paid them for the losses, whether they took place or not, at 80%. And you're comfortable with it because of that. But now we are glad to note that the trend has changed. My personal concern about the payment meters, I am not sure that the calibration is good. You install a meter, 5 years later you haven't come to calibrate it. I don't know how it could work efficiently or not. So this is what UET should do quickly to check on the calibration of the prepaid payment meters. So people are now comparing the UET meter and units are running faster. I don't know, but there is need for us to go into this and see how it can go.
Yeah.
There's also
need, like a modern engineer.
There's also need. Yes, I've been made by those. There's also need for UEDC to do a publicity campaign. And for ERA to explain that UEDC has not just come. They've been here. They own the network, they're interested in the network. There's also a need to explain to the people that whereas the member invested in the network or whatever, the money was, part of the money was evaluated by ERA and counted for in the tariff.
Continuously.
So most of the money has been paid back, in fact, through the tariffs. What is going to happen, what they are going to pay them is what is yet to be paid by the regulator, really. Otherwise, they have been paid, borrow the money, and they can go away happily. When I was growing up in Toro, if you saw your neighbor has no goat, no chicken, no cattle, you gave him one, a calf. You call that hereka. So as you give him capacity to grow more cows or goats or whatever. The share one, you would share the kids. One. But he will take care of the goat or the cow entirely. And you pay him back into, but when the cow, when you want to buy it, it comes as your cow. Let's go with it. Which means Umeme has looked after our cow. And the cow can come back to us. And nobody should complain that the cow has come back. And the cow has grown and has multiplied, which is a good idea. Finally, I wish to thank Zilia. Thank you very much for the kind words you said about me. All the good work you are doing is yours. Mine was preparing to become a good engineer. So Tijanura, of course, you know your name is a bit confusing. Kubamzi Ogomwana, I think they have problems with the family. But now they can celebrate that Tijanura is the chief engineer. Thank you very much.
And I also thank the board. When we hired him as CEO,
the downtown were that Kasangaki and had hired a friend of theirs who's Rotarian in their club, and that they union the river march. Now you know. The rest is history. This sector is strong. We may have had problems, or we may have had problems, but the sector is strong. We will thank you. We must thank the press for putting us on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you,
Do you
Dr.
have any
Kasanga.
questions?
No, like I told you, I did not give you a question.
No.
Let's pass the microphone to Mr. Shem Nagenda over there. When people are not putting up their hands, I will nominate them. Okay. So, Mr. Nagenda, a lot of here we've talked about. We the people of lights are the noisemakers. You know, when your lights are off. But there are people, the few industries we have, they need electricity. What do you see in the near future for those people?
First of all, thank you for the invitation to this forum. It's been a while since I've attended Chigo Thinkers, so I'm happy to be back. I also want to thank the panelists. I'm seeing their blessing for the first time. But I attended their AGM last year, and the questions about the future that you've talked about were raised, and they addressed them adequately. What is the future of Umeme and any other country they'll invest in. I just want to thank Dr. Seboa. When I was in the private sector, trying to put my foot there, he mentored me very, very well. And I agree with Engineer Kasangati that he put the sector on a very sound footing as the first leader. And I know that he must have mentored Ziria. Ziria was in UETCL before then, and I must say that both entities gave me a very professional feel of what Uganda is in the energy sector. And I'll say, if I meet the minister, I'll tell them that, yes, you're still holding the flag high. I'll move on to the private sector. The private sector, especially the large industries, have benefited from their power of persuasion. They have a much better price than the domestic consumers. So my plea to you this year, when they're doing their marketing campaign, I know they've reduced the tariffs. They haven't made enough noise about that. I don't know why. Maybe government should help on that. But that the engine of Uganda is the SME sector. We hope that they get a program together to further reduce, because the SME sector is the one that feeds into as clients of the large manufacturers and the large industries, and that the tariff actually comes down. And the target of Umeme getting to 2 million consumers, if they're about 8-9 million households, I think UDCL would be safe. And in the next 4 years, if they can move to say 4 million, because everything is digital. As I said, the losses of 16%, if really it's digital, I know 16% with the smart grid, that is a discussion for another day in more detail, and I'd like to be able to contribute to that with the smart grid. Thank you very much.
And before you leave the microphone, you know, I always trust you as the numbers man. So does it help that we don't have to make a payment to ESCOM going forward? You know, in those old days, there was a payment of on the 15th of a month. Maybe that. It was ESCOM.
Yes, and in terms of payments at the base level, I must say that the benefits of Umeme are immense. They have de-risked the sector, their performance. Anyone who wants to come into the sector on the investor side knows that there is a cash flow, and it is permanent. So we need to applaud Umeme for that.
As engineers here says, people are knocking and coming in.
Yes. On the side of the consumer paying, the ease with which they pay is, I mean, it's industry standard. You sit in your car and park on the roadside when they've told you there is no power at home, and you make the payment, and immediately the power is back on. I think that is phenomenal. Yeah. And I must that I also attended the release of the statement by the chairman of the board of IRA at Imperial, where the application for the license was made. And UEDCL showed that it has the capacity, it has already been handling concessions in other parts of Uganda, and that we as Ugandans, we should have confidence in UEDCL, give them a chance. And I am sure that we will support them.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to to Mr. Richard Biarogaba first, and you know, the private sector. You worked in private sector, and then you actually went to public sector. But in January, Umeme called me. Someone from Umeme called me. He said, "Mr. Samuel, it's okay. Your consumption of electricity has been minimal. What has happened?" And I told that person that we've had a lot of sunshine, and my small solar panel has helped me in January. But these are the things that UEDCA will take on, you know, and we have confidence that they will do them. That is one. Two, I was most advising you to say very little about the exchange, so that you don't shock anything. A lot of people.
First of all, I have a conflict of interest because I'm the chairperson of the board of directors of the Uganda Stock Exchange. So my comments could be construed to influence the decisions of the investors. Fortunately for us, now the counter has been suspended voluntarily for the reasons that everybody is aware of. But having said that,
no, not negatively. When you say everyone is aware of you know, even the English you use can worry us. Just say for smooth operation.
Well, so that all the that are in dispute are resolved to the best of the ability of both the government and the investors of the shareholders of women. But having said that, I have a few comments to make randomly. The first one is the analogy that Engineer Executive Director made about a kiosk and a supermarket. I think what UDCL has done is moved from a kiosk to a supermarket, but they've also gone to a mega store. I think this Umeme is a mega store, or the distribution that they are handling is a mega store. So I hope UEDCL are aware of the challenges of running from a kiosk to a mega store, because the issues are a lot more, you know. You've got the logistics, which is part of their business, but you've got the finances, which is a big part of their business. I think what Umeme did was to make the question of finance become a very, very important one. The second matter I think that UEDCL need to be aware of, I know that they've talked a lot about governance and efficiency as an equation, but I think one of the, when I ran NSSF, one of the biggest challenges for me was the procurement process. As a public institution, you're meant to follow the procurement process as defined by the PPD Act, and I believe UEDCL is also covered with that. The good news with that process is that it improves the governance of the procurement. The bad news is that it is very detrimental to the efficiency of getting the procurement. So it will take you a very long time to buy things because you've got to go through that process. So I hope that they can look at that and learn from the lessons of even Umeme, I believe, because since they were a private company, their procurement must have been more efficient than what is possibly they're able to do using a government system. The third one is, we'll come back to finances, which is my forte really. And I like to believe that UEDCL will need to find a way of bringing back some of their business back to the capital markets. And the reason I say this is that because Umeme has de-risked the industry, because Uganda's credit rating has improved, especially on the capital market side, although we are seeing the challenges that have been brought about by geopolitics, the madness that's happening in the US and that sort of thing, but we do see that there are still a lot of foreign investors who are coming to the market and bringing in capital which can be tapped. At the moment, obviously, a lot of it is going to government bonds. If you are aware, there is quite a huge amount that comes in to invest in the local bonds, or what they call the frontier bonds. And I believe that ECDL can take advantage that rather than raise money just from the commercial banks in Uganda, as the impression is being created, that they should tap into the capital markets and make sure that that money comes in, continue to finance.
Because it's cheaper.
Yeah, it is cheaper, and the industry has been de-risked, so there is a cash flow which you can demonstrate, right, that is available to repay this money. These investors are looking for those returns that are there. Our exchange rate has been stable, so when somebody brings in money in dollars, they know that they can convert it back into dollars without taking a huge risk on the exchange rate. And then the returns are obviously there because of the business that they're doing. So my advice would be that do not disregard the opportunity that exists in the capital market. I would say that, of course, because I believe that it is a good thing. And finally, I think if Ugandans are to own UEDCL again, like they've owned Umeme, come to the capital markets, list your shares. Government can retain, I mean, in Kenya, if you look at Kenya Power and Lighting, it's a public company listed, but government has an enormous stake. So, yeah, government can also be a shareholder, just like they've done with New Vision and a couple of other entities, but come to the capital markets so that your life can be better.
You've done a very good kalango that we shall not charge you for. But let's have Eric.
Yes, thank you. Morning to everyone. I have two questions. One is going to really focus on the audit you shared that was done by PwC. One that was done by PwC. When you look at the setup, the governance setup of previously Umeme versus ERA and then the distribution company limited, you see that Umeme had more finance professionals in their leadership, including the gentleman who is standing there as head of corporate, versus the technical people that actually are going to be in the leadership of the distribution company limited. My question is, do you think Umeme having finance professionals had something to do with their success? And are you going to try to replicate that with the distribution company limited? The second question, which is the last, is on sustainability. And I'm looking at sustainability both in the angle of growth for the distribution company limited and ERA, but as well as impact in the communities that they currently affect. I know we've been trying to build dams here and there, and the socio-economic impact of these dams, however much is improving the grid, but it has a negative impact to the communities where these dams are. What are you as a regulator doing to make sure you have better impact in such communities? Thanks.
Thank you. I have Mr. Joga Sebukuru. Hand was up.
Thank you, Oscar. A few quick ones. I think, sorry I was delayed, so I'll pick up where I found engineer area. And my first one is, some astounding
Just
figures.
hold a microphone a little bit higher.
Astounding figures in terms of injections, network, and the feeling I get is that, Umeme was deliberately running down the sector, okay, bleeding the sector purposely. If it was in a tenant, then they were not even flashing the toilet. You said 500 transformers. What should we believe? Is it that the network has been so run down that's in a crisis stage, or was it a rapid expansion that created so many gaps that you come in to feel at this time? Secondly, is dead weight. In the Senene grasshopper season, when you go to these collection places, beaming with abundant light. And do you know that the cost is around 200 to 300,000 for you to connect it directly per season, and you dip into your drum, and then a mabati, and then you begin collecting your senate. So this is systemic corruption, but it all comes back to us in terms of losses in staff, 38%, and we are paying. So are you aware that it is people tap before you actually meter. And then the third one is a political expansion. Everywhere you go, you know, there are lines flowing in all directions. Even with the other day, I found a transformer in the middle of a bush, and I was wondering, what is this transformer doing here? Someone says, you know, me, I was connected, my son was handling this, and this is how we got it for future use. And now that we are diving into 2026, are you insulated? How insulated are we as the end users from tariffs and from this and you know, power being a political good? How are we insulated now that we are in control? We actually have to respond to directives, and at the end of the day, we have to pick up the pieces. So thank you so much.
I like Jogas is always ready to make you account. Stephen, I always have trouble with a surname like it was the same way.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, good afternoon. In the morning. Good afternoon. I'd like to thank you, Oscar, and to the center for inviting me here. It's been an opportunity to meet so many people who have been reading in the papers, especially those who are driving our energy sector. Our energy sector is not a small one, and of course it drives everything that we deal with. My concern is about the myriad of organizations that are running the sector. My question probably goes to the era chief. I think you need to talk about it. Do we see so many? There's the transmission, there's the generation, and recently there's the Uganda electricity, energy, whatever. So many. And now you have EDC. Now, are all these organizations necessary? Maybe going further, my feeling is that this could be the reason why the tariffs are so high. Because you have sustained all those organizations. Each organization has got a board of directors, they have got staff. You know, they have to be paid. So that is my first concern. The second one, maybe it goes back to the former chief of the NSSF. Now he's the chief of
Myself too. My wife.
Yeah, they've been concerned about to name it. What is it now? Is it a company reputation? Is it a company that is going to move on? What is it? And in fact, there was concern that in the first instance, it shouldn't have been allowed to trade on the stock exchange because its future was determined. So what is it now? And maybe finally, those who are going to run UE this year. Yeah. If you've read recently, the chief of water was crying that the government owes him, I think, over 100 billion. You know, in the mix of things, the government seems to be its own enemy. They create entities, they don't fund them. They consume services, they don't want to pay. And I'm sure UEDCL is going to find itself in similar problems. I don't know what they are going to do, but this is something probably the new chief executive here or the chief executive here could comment on, because unless the government pays, you are going to find yourself similar problems with the water, and probably the few people who manage to pay are going to be at the plant because you are struggling to maintain your services, but the main consumer, who is the government, are not paying. Thank you, Oscar, for this opportunity, and may God bless you.
Thank you for pointing out those areas. I'd like to go now to media people. If you have a question, just mention your media house and your name and who you are directing the question at. Then we will have the panelists respond if they have to, and the conclusion by Engineer Ziria Wako. Yeah, so, Ed.
Thank you very much. I'm Stephen Otago from Daily Monitor. I'm Stephen Otago from Daily Monitor. Engineer from I told when the was handing over to you this remember there's no asset register. And he just rightly told us that there are ships sleeping in sufficient. So what it inherited from you that's it with engineers either. And the technical losses have always kept high, and the suspicion that this is not a fraud, even was accepting Uganda. I don't know what you want to give us to comfort Ugandans. And then, Richard, there's a fear about.
Why me? I am nothing.
The shares are going to pay back to the shareholders. There's a feeling that maybe underpriced. What comfort are you giving them for the investment they put in there? Thank you.
I can't make a comment on that. That's marketing information. Any other journalists?
Thank you so much. My name is Sarah Narakoso. I'm from the New Vision. So my question goes to the UEDCL boss. He talked about the targets for April to June. I would like to know how much is budgeted for the activities you listed. Thank you.
Oscar stepped aside some of which might sort of easy replacement until he comes back. Can we have another question?
Good. Do we have any other journalists asking questions?
Yeah, let me ask a last one.
Okay, you remember the topic. Wow.
There have been complaints on the communication. I think Umeme was being better, especially on Twitter since we are Gen Zs. So I don't know what is UEDCL doing to improve the communication.
But it's 2 weeks.
Yeah, but
The reading of
it's
notice.
alive.
Okay. You are putting them to account.
Yes. Then maybe to Umeme, if I may ask, what are some of the internal projections you had made in the risks and maybe challenges that UEDCL might face in the, yeah, maybe that's it.
Thank you very much. I'm Dennis from the Uganda Radio Network. Mine is just a concern. What was not clear is the capitalization of UEDCL. When Cabinet was coming up with this resolution, how is UEDCL's management going to be capitalized? Because with the moment it was very clear, but in Nigeria didn't bring it very well. It's like as if you're going back to the normal silos in government capitalization of funding. It wasn't very clear. I just need to be corrected to that. Please put it back.
One last one?
Okay.
Another last one from her.
Okay, another last one. This is the very last.
Hold the microphone now.
Yeah, so the UEDCL boss mentioned that they are going to work on the people who had paid for their connections in April.
He's made that a commitment.
Yeah. So I'm asking, how about the people who had not paid or had not started on the
Or even
process.
those who wish to apply.
Yeah, and they don't even know where to start from, since some people even say UEDCL is hard to mention, so they call it former umeme. So what is the plan for the new connection?
I've been calling it light. I still want to find out who gave them that name, light. But Mr. Chazi, John Chazi.
Yes, sir.
You're from UNBS?
Yeah.
So the question on calibration should have come to you.
Yes, sir.
We've done some work as Chief Thinkers on the gaming industry and all. And in that industry, calibration is so important. But engineer Dr. Kasangi says if you have a gadget that's over 5 years old, maybe the gadget is cheating us.
Yeah, I think I
Lift the microphone.
Thank you very much.
Lift it higher, the
I
microphone.
agree with him absolutely. Of course, if a gadget is used, that is issuing like it's a meter, it loses its accuracy over time. So because it loses its accuracy over time, accuracy means certain limits, it tends to give results that are faulty, and that means it is cheating. So that's when aspects for calibration, or largely the legal way, is verification. Well, calibration can be like commercial, but verification, we usually do it it's either way to protect the consumer on one side, but also to protect now it's UEDCL. So I think it is very important that we'll have to verify the energy meters that are used by UEDCL.
And you coming from UNBS?
Yes.
You are the one we should crucify.
No. We are here to just like to amend that, to see that we work together with them so that they continue that. We also need to ensure we do type approvals, most especially for those that they are being imported. They're importing in a lot of energy meters. So we need to really work out that. We've been working with the with the umeme formally in that area, but of course we just need to maintain. Now it's government to government, which is usually also very easy. So I think we need to do verify meters to protect our consumers, but also to ensure that they also safe from the other side.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, yes.
Yes, my name is Fred Kaji from Okuva TV. My question goes to Meme. Here the discrepancy on the buyout was extremely huge, starting from $235 million to 118. Yeah, that is too huge, and the now running that you are even claiming now 400 billion shillings. I want to understand where is the problem. Just submit on that, shed the light on that. The other issues on the EDC, I want you to also come clear on the new tariffs. Because many people have not appreciated the cost that the tariff has gone low, we are running it. So want to get it clear. What is the new change? Thank you so much.
But we had education here. The owner of the tariff is the regulator. So that is engineer Zia's question. Richard?
Sorry, Oscar, I need to just...
Yeah.
Can I just... I forgot to mention this. Engineer,
Kino.
Protas, great. One of the things that I think you need to work on as a company is your branding. Have you heard that? Your branding is suffering even before you do anything. Because this guy is one of the things that had done very well is brand. So coming up with things like light, things like with UDCL and the red color, which brings people's memories of UEB, you won't get out of that. You really need to do a rebrand and really get hold of this problem, because perception is everything, as you know, in business.
Okay. I guess let's have responses. Anyone on the panel that would like to go first?
Sorry, there were a couple of, since I have the microphone, let me finish with my response because there was one or two questions. First of all, I can't make any comments about the market. So Umeme is still a traded company on the stock exchange, and I cannot make very specific comments about that. However, I can make a comment about the issue that was raised by Stephen with regard to the fact that should even Umeme have been listed. My own view is that it is a going concern. It had a business model. It was delivering value, and it has delivered value to its shareholders. In fact, if you held the stock of Umeme since inception, you will actually have got back your return, even before the buyout amount to the shareholders as a final dividend. So as an investment, it was good. But why was it so important that Umeme gets listed? As you all know, that there were two companies initially that owned it. One was CDC, which was an NGO, it's actually an NGO business arm of the Commonwealth of the British government. And the second one was ESCOM, which is a power supply in South Africa. So these two companies actually invested in this entity called Umeme and decided that because there were private equity funds run their investments for a limited period, mostly 7 years, not beyond that. So they needed to leave, and they would not have left, if they had just left without getting new investors put in money, then the company would have collapsed. So they did the right thing. They made sure that Ugandans shared in the business model and in the benefits of listing in a company. And they've improved the sector, as I said earlier. So there's no doubt that Umeme should have listed, and that's why I today appeal to the new distributors that if they're looking for patient capital, patient long-term capital. I know somebody asked about government putting capital in the distributor, but if they're looking for patient capital, then definitely the capital markets is the only way to go.
Thank you. Let's begin these conclusions with you, Dr. Sabor.
Thank you very much, everyone, and it's nice to hear various views from other people as well. You learn along the way. In here, I have a few comments to make. UDCL was created and stayed here for exactly this purpose. Everybody knew when the concession ended, we needed somebody else to come. They might have renewed the concession one more time, but still UEDCL was created exactly for that purpose. Maybe to reassure people here, it's not only UEDCL that, in fact, one of the purposes was wherever a company failed, and many companies other than Umeme came into the sector, Umeme effectively took over. UEDCL effectively took over. They took over in Chenjojo. You remember FAD something when they failed, they took over. They were running those crazy things in Moroto before Moroto got online and so on. So they are not a baby. In fact, they are older than Umeme as far as Uganda is concerned. Then I want to comment that it's not only UEDCL which has capacity. As a country, we should be proud that the whole sector has really moved from where they were. Some of you remember that Isimba had a problem which led to a national power blackout. I was one of the few people who went there with some other engineers to see what had gone wrong and how they had put it back. Well, 2 weeks ahead of what the time they had said. Do you know the people who did that? They were younger Ugandans, much younger than me. And we are proud that the sector, through this concession thing, has been allowed to grow and grow with Ugandans in the background. On that, I always shout that what we did was right because it taught Ugandans how to run their own system. I think there was a question or comment made about the president's 5 US cents for industries. This did not start yesterday. The man has been working on it for a long time, along with the technical people. So when you see that industries are getting the 5 US cents, it goes way back. When I was still, it wasn't this building, it was the other one. When he said, I direct you people in the sector. I want industries to do this because the ripple effects, the outcomes of that are far greater than charging them for electricity. They provide jobs, they pay taxes, and they do a few other things. So I think the 5 US cents should not be looked at as a bad thing. When you set a target, you work to find the solutions. This solution, I think, has taken like 12, 13 years to be achieved, and it will come to your SMEs all the time. I don't think it's given up on manufacturers and investors yet. Why were there so many organizations in the sector? I think a comment from that side.
From Stephen, yes.
The truth of the matter is the power industry has distinct elements in it. It has the generation, which is actually, like, if you look at this, I call it like a farming, matoke especially. You have the people who grow matoke, that's the generation. The business of growing matoke is far different from the transporters. The transporters are the big trucks which bring matoke all over the place. If you asked the grower of matoke to start transporting it to Kampala, half of it will be rotten on the road. Then you have the distributors. Before it reaches you, the consumers. Those ladies you see in the markets, they are in a unique business. Now, you may say matoke industry. As long as those three key points are catered for, you will get a good industry. Whether we are united or separated or whatever, the key thing is there. Those three key segments, of course, the last one being the consumers. Your house girl, your lady, in the case, your chief, this case, chief at home is interested in how the matoke will reach your tongue for good taste. But she has no idea how those women in the market manage their business not to rot, for instance. The same way electricity has generators, many generators in the case of Uganda, has transmitters or transporters, who is transmission. But now we've realized that you cannot have one transporter of electricity in Barak all over the place. So we have opened up the new Act of 2022, I think, allows that anybody can be in the transmission business, provided you meet certain conditions and terms. Someone asked where Umeme is going. When I first sat here, I told Blessing here that if I were Umeme and I'm a shareholder there, I would be happy to be in this position. Why? The opportunity for business in energy in Uganda is far, far bigger than distribution. In fact, distribution is one of, I told him, now you are getting rid of all the worries and problems. You have a big door opened on the other side to get involved. I was saying that from a selfish point of view. My shares, I want them to keep growing from that side. But the opportunity is big. Renewable energy has hardly been touched. Productive use in renewable energy, there are many things in energy sector which are under wraps now. Indeed, until this process happened in 2001 or 2005 actually, people did not know that Uganda would attract as many investors as today. I'm certain he keeps throwing them out. She keeps throwing them away, as I used to. You look at it, the problem is they always start in a big house in this town. And then when you are summoned there, it takes a lot of courage, and I know she's a courageous woman, to say that, sir, let's go and look at this, we'll give you a form of feedback. Because there are many who want to come, some of them dubious, others serious, but still there are many.
Thank you,
I want to do one more that was directed to me by a gentleman here. Umeme, what did he take over? Umeme took over the operation of distributing electricity. The assets have never belonged to Umeme. They belong to UEDCL. During my day, during Mutambi's day, during her day, Umeme, when it's making big investments, we bring UEDCL on board to say, this investment here, we as regulators look at it XYZ. What is your view? Should it go ahead or not? To me, I think that is something which has never been clear in people's minds. This argument about what amount to compensate and so on and so forth, I think my sister here will handle. The law provides for it. Other people may want to interject in and do other things. That's up to them. Even Umeme signed to that. Who will sanction and who will value what assets you've invested in? If you invested too much, if you invested too little, but the truth of the matter is the regulator was on board. And I'm glad that she did not break down the foundation we set. Instead, she built on it so quickly. Now all over the world, she is the best regulator on the African continent.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Seboa. So that is Stephen J. Ukwa and myself. We've learned lessons. Blessing Nchaho, your final comments.
All right, thank you very much. And I'm going to address the 6 questions that came my way. Question 1 was Umeme running down the sector and creating a crisis? I think it is important. I think it is important to understand one thing, and that is that as a listed company, our annual reports and half-year financial statements are on our website. They are published to everyone to see. I think one thing, if you look even over the last 3 years, even though we were scaling down our investments, the revenues were good. It is important to understand that if a system was collapsing, the revenues would be declining. But we've been experiencing double-digit growth, 10%, 14% year on year. And we are currently in a closed period. We've not yet published our financials for 2024. But I can say that the revenues for March 2025 were the highest we've ever received in the history of the company. So that is not indicative of a system that is collapsing. Because it was collapsing, then the revenues would also be going down.
I'm going to rush you a little bit because
Yes.
of time.
In terms of dead weight, the second question, systematic corruption around Insenene, those who are harvesting. Just to note that those Insenene harvesters were actually not stealing. Some of them may not have had meters, but we had a system where we actually entered into commercial agreements with them, where we actually assessed the bulbs they were using, how long those lights were staying on, the consumption that they were having. And we would enter into agreements with them to say that this is how much you're going to pay per day of running. And therefore, that's how we minimize losses on the Insenene front. So there was no systematic corruption there. There was a question around, again, Umeme was doing systematic fraud on the public. I want to also note further that Umeme was probably one of the most highly regulated companies in the country. In terms of regulation, we had the Electricity Regulatory Authority, Capital Markets Authority Uganda, the Uganda Securities Exchange, Capital Markets Authority Kenya, because we were cross-listed on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Nairobi Securities Exchange was also a regulator, URA, UNBS. We had so many people doing audits on us. Even NSSF came and did a full-scale audit for the entire concession. Clean report, URA, clean report. URA actually, we at the awards that were held last year, we were ranked the most compliant taxpayer in Uganda, Umeme. So it is important to note that we would always publish half-year reports, annual reports on our website. ERA was conducting quarterly assessments based on quarterly reports that we provide to them, and also we're doing annual governance assessments by all the Capital Markets Authority regulators. So I don't know where the systematic fraud would come through, because we had audits going on all the time of everything that we were doing. And it is important to note that ERA ranked us as the most compliant utility in the country, 90.25%. That's a D1 for last year. So I think it is important, and they're the #1 regulator on the continent, 6 years in a row. So if they've ranked us that way, I think we've done pretty well. In terms of internal projections regarding risks and challenges relating to UEDCL, what they would face, I want to note that from the time we started this journey to transition, there were committees that were set up. The Retransfer Coordination Committee, the Joint Technical Committee. This was mentioned by the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, on the 31st of May when we were handing over, and she explained how those committees were operating. And through those committees, we engaged with UEDCL and the government on all the risks that could be faced, and those were addressed, as Engineer Zilia said, through action plans that were put together and implemented. I wouldn't want to specifically mention any risk because it would be up to UEDCL to talk about that. In terms of gadgets losing accuracy over time and type approvals, as I mentioned, UNPS was one of our regulators, and they would give us type approvals for all new meters. They would also do testing of every single meter that we put on the network. It was pre-tested by UNBS, and every year UNBS would come and do in-service testing. So they would go to the field and check the meters on the network. So I think that one addresses that. Finally, there's the issue of the discrepancy on the buyout. Why is it so huge and what's the problem? As a listed company, we are required to ensure that we give investors and the public the same information all the time so that they are aware of what is going on. And I think you will have noticed that over the past few weeks, we have been issuing public notices, providing both the public and investors information regarding what is going on, the numbers, and the next steps. In fact, the latest notice was yesterday. So if you go and look at yesterday's newspaper, you will find that we issued a notice there with information regarding this matter. So at this point, I will not be discussing anything further. I can see my regulator there telling me, don't say anything, and that is the way it is meant to be.
Yeah.
As I said, I have so many regulators.
And as I used to say, I'm also interested in you not saying anything.
But I just want to, since this is my last comment, I believe, to say thank you to the people of Uganda. I think we have had an excellent 20 years. Yes, we had a lot of arguments at the beginning and battles. And I think when we got to the point where we were largely a Ugandan-run company, those battles ceased. And I think Engineer Zilia will agree that we have had a harmonious relationship over the past few years, including all the other regulators. But I think the customers, it's important for us to say thank you to them. And it's also important to note for those who follow Simon Sinek, there was a talk he gave about styrofoam cups. It was very intentional for me to pick a styrofoam cup today to show that the baton has been handed over. Now, the ceramic cups are with UEDCL. The role has changed. They're the ones.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Blessing, Shaba, thank you very much, Chief Corporate and Regulatory Officer. Angela Izama.
Oscar, in the interest of time, I'll just say 3 things. Mr. Nagenda said something about Ugandans having confidence. I agree. If you look at where Ugandan companies and state-run corporations are succeeding, the ones I follow in the energy sector, in the oil and gas sector, there is a reason for the next generation of Ugandans to really feel that the country can run on its own fuel. However, Ugandans also have very high standards. So some of us on the other side of 50 now, but the young people have extremely high standards, and I think the duty of public officers
and impatience.
And to maintain that level of standard that is being demanded. That is the future that UEDCL is going into, and that's where the business will rest. I also asked the question earlier whether UDCL would be allowed to retain a percentage of its earnings to reinvest in the network. And the regulator said, the shareholder has got deep pockets. I have a different view. But I think arrangements should be really pursued vigorously to make sure that there is some kind of insulation for investable funds back into the network. And finally, Oscar, I'm in the private sector now, but private sector principles work. They work for many, they work for UDCL. So what Richard was saying about, procurement volatility in the public sector, that's a real problem. So you're not to be an albatross on the back of the company. It affects HR management, it affects efficiency. I hope there is something that can be done to allow state-run companies to operate on private sector principles. And the public rules right now, unfortunately, just don't give us the kind of leverage. Thank you.
Thank you, Angelo Izama. I, as you, am a private sector completely in my daily work, and we appreciate ERA for inviting private sector public policy think tank to come and moderate this session, and it's very, very informative. We thank you for that. As you know, we brought accountability to you. Sometimes when you go to a government function, they bring all the people to say good things. But as a public policy think tank, I think we've done well. I commend you as well, Engineer Zilia Tivora Wako, because I've not been to this building. When I last met and the ERA CEO was Dr. Seboa on Huntington Avenue. But this one you built it very quickly as a private sector organization, private sector standard. And for that ERA needs a hand clap. So I'd also like to thank the media people who have, I'm doing all these thank yous because when the host stands up to respond and speak, I'll not be saying anything else. I'd like to thank all the media personalities that are here. We thank you for coming whenever we invite you. This one was a little bit more difficult, but we persuaded Ziria that she's government and she can invite as many media houses as she can. So we hope we'll give her more training on how she can use that leverage she has. So the only thing you are left for me is to give Oscar Semayamsoke a huge hand clap. And Engineer Zia Tivara Wako, I hand over 12 full minutes for you to do as you please.
Okay, thank you very much, and I will start by responding to a few questions of regulatory nature, and then I will give my closing and appreciation remarks. Just to clarify more on the issue of your meters, if you doubt your meter, you approach the UNBS. Through World Bank ERT, we installed the electricity meter test section. It's a full section. It has a full test bench as well as handheld that can come to your home. We periodically run these adverts, but maybe because of the changes, we are going to run it again. So at the point of end user, if you doubt the accuracy of your meter, please. Now, when you approach UNBS, we have the weights and measurement rules that we amended to provide for this section. There is a little fee that you pay if the meter is found to be correct. If it is accurate, you will pay fee. But if the meter is inaccurate, you will not pay the fee and you replace it at no additional cost. So I just wanted to clarify on that. We will also run that notice so that pardon? No, but this year is the judges, it used to be like that, where we used to send the customers to the distributors to validate, to verify the accuracy of the meter. But remember, the bill contestation is between the end user and the licensee. So we need an umpire who is entrusted by government on matters of.
Engineers, yeah, you first continue because the time is running out.
Thank
you know,
you.
TV works punctually.
Thank you. Thank you. On public campaign and the popularization of UEDC, we will synergize and be able to continuously do that. On procurement, we are very concerned, and at the moment we are reviewing the regulations to give us flexibility as state-owned agencies, but also as privately funded through the consumer, so that we don't follow strictly what the treasury funding follows, without violating the controls, but flexibility so that we can procure from the manufacturers. We don't have to be subjected to all other requirements if we can get it from the source at a cheaper cost. So we are reviewing the law. We are reviewing the law. Concerning the capitalization of UAE this year, to be specific, when I said that the shareholders will capitalize UAE this year, it didn't mean that they will be picking from the treasury on an annual basis. The decision that we have from cabinet is that the 118 that the government has paid for the bailout amount has been given to UAE this year to recover through the tariff at an interest and invest as seed capital. So they have weaned them off the breast. Then in addition to that, we have provided for UAE this year, and through the tariff they were providing for women. At UEDCL disclosure, in the next 9 months, they have $100 million. Women has never been able to reach that in any particular year. But we are talking about the 90, in the next 9 months. They have at their disclosure $100 million to run, to restore, to upgrade, to ensure that the network is able to cope with the service.
I will invite them to Chigo.
So I just wanted to make that clear. And then going forward, they are recovering at an interest, even when they used to recover. So they are going to be sustainable. Initially seed capital from the government, but collected through the end-user tariff, so that they are continuously sustainable. On the issue of balancing of the tariffs between the SME, the extra large, naturally the extra large peak power at high voltage, and at high voltage there are low losses. So naturally, the extra large tariff is lower than any other tariff. However, when the government refinanced the Jagali, the policy decision was made that all the proceeds from the financing of the Jagali go towards reducing the tariff of the extra large. Hence the gap that you see, hence the demand from His Excellency. I get refinance the Jagali, and I need to focus on the industries. And when you focus on the industries, you are not only lowering the tariff of the extra large, but also the products of the extra large are inputs to the SME. They are inputs to the construction industry, but also they can guzzle, they can up their consumption quicker so that the revenue numbers for UEDCL improve. And now that improved revenue goes a long way now to reduce the tariff of the other customer categories. And you have seen the SME tariffs started reducing naturally. So our tariff is not superficial. Apart from the assumptions that I've shared here, government has granted UEDCL the 118 to recover through the tariff because it is an investment. They have bought out the remaining usable life of the assets that remain invested. And therefore, that recovery is capitalized this year. There was an issue of remaining, the delay abandonment, delay work. The issue is that, one, many things are happening so fast in the electricity supply industry. We just commissioned Karuma, and usually when you commission a big plant, you release suppressed demand. So two things which are good coincided. One, we had additional generation. So when you release suppressed demand, it means all constraints that have been constrained by inadequacy of generation are now no longer there. Now, at the same time, we were ramping down on the side of UEDCL, again as a result of the cabinet decision. And even if it is not cabinet, it's a few banking industry that were there to lend a company that has half a year in their lifetime, because the timeline to recover the cost may not be there. So two things happen, but the good thing is that we are transited and we are all facing progressively up. The rural populace, how are they going to benefit from all these developments and improvements, and how do we impact their socio-economic transformation? The World Bank Scale-Up Project. It includes the renewables for rural schools, for rural hospitals. It includes the no-pole, the one-pole. It includes upgrade. So these $100 million we are talking about it doesn't include this $683 million World Bank, which is for accelerating access to electricity. So we are coming for the rural populace. I'm happy that transformer, when you said it was in the bush, you got a customer who explained. So it wasn't in the bush. There was a customer being served, and we have a target to have access for all by 2020. It's too close,
yes.
But now finally, the targets.
No. Okay, yes.
Does UEDCL have targets?
If you can manage them in 1 minute.
Yes, in 1 minute. Yes, we have set performance targets for UEDCL. Umeme has shared that they've ended at 16%. In the next 9 months, you expect the loss factor to reduce to 14.59%. Next year, the loss target should reduce to 13.65%, and the following year, the loss target should reduce to 12.31%. Now, revenue collection, 99.85%, 99.855, and 99.8555. Because one, we pay before we use, we on prepayment, and the industries are on automated meter readers. So there is no reason they should not collect this revenue. On the side of government, we are going to roll them on the prepaid meters, our prepaid 3-phase. And we have discussed with the KSST and is in agreement that we enroll all government MDAs on this. So we'll have. Finally, may I thank you, Chief of Thinkers, for bringing all my own. The media is very close to us. They keep a tab on us, but also we move with them wherever we move, because they are the conduit through which we can communicate transparently to the public. I would like to thank again my professor here. I think you are the reason I exist here. I had a meal in his home. There are very few professors who invite you in their family, and his wife serves and you eat, and you have conversations on how you can grow. No wonder you have an output that you can associate with. Thank you very much, and we pledge to continue engaging as we serve to sustain the electricity supply industry for socio-economic development.
Thank you so much. Thank you, the media houses that are here. We will continue with a few more minutes just for your questions, for especially Dr. Engineer Ziria Tiwara Wako. Thank you very much. You know these ones, Engineer Ziria, this one we have just finished for TV. So because they need to sign out at their times, but I know that they are going to ask you some more questions. So, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead. We can have this for about 10 minutes. Then we'll take a photograph and conclude.
When the cats are away?
Use the microphone. Who has the microphone? There's a microphone behind it. Don't rush away because you want to do a photograph, please. Has Angelo run already? Angelo, hold on, we'll take a photograph.
Okay, all right.
Yes, and Angelo, you are required to be here. But this is the time. The media, they run out of questions. They run out of questions. You will ask one-on-one, okay.
Yeah, I would like you to perform a small function. Yes. You appreciate everyone is being with. And my team, where you
Angelo should come back.
Angelo, please come back.
come.
Even Mr. Yamgama, please come. Engineer Zia is going to hand over a small token of appreciation to the panelists. The young man is there, 1.4. There is a little card and a present each of us. So,
These government things, we need to declare.
Yes, we have to.
she's going to declare before.
Yes, we have to show. No, she's not about reading. We have to show. So that
I don't think they walked out with envelopes of dollars. We'll start with the Oscar.
No.
You are here. Each one of you is going to receive. Dr. Sekwa is the first to receive.
this is yours.
So CEO, I can read the lists for you because I have here. You are in front of Dr. Sekwa, so you just confirm that. And that is there. You always govern in this house.
Explaining, because we have to do more so that we understand.
And that is the bottom line. Oscar, since you're standing here, you're next.
It is the same, so I don't have to open it.
It's okay. It's okay.
Transparency is one of our core values.
So can the boy be opening so that we manage?
Yes, please do that.
Okay.
And there's a soup boil there for you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you
And
so
the
much.
next one is for your lecturer, Engineer Kasanga.
Say when you cannot get. Yes.
There is no way your lecturer would have gone away without taking your It's the reason you are the CEO here. And the next one is a farewell for. The next one is a farewell for blessing. Adusa, please come the other side. The next one is for Mr. Blessing Ishamu. It's farewell. When you're well done.
You and my colleague Bahozi will need to serve. Told you that the sector has trained you must pay back to your alma mater. This sector is now your alma mater.
Yes, thank you so much.
The next one goes to Angelo Izama. Angelo used to be my friend those days when he was in the media, but he's no longer in the media.
How come he's here? Popularizing here and yet you are saying he's not here. Here we are. Come on. Bring the card, the card for your friend.
And still the very last one for
Yes, physically, but most likely let time.
the very last one for what you gave me goes to Mr. Richard Biarugawa. Mr. Richard Biarugawa, happy Easter to you, sir.
Thank you. I'm so happy. And it is very well.
Thank you so much. Oh my God, this is a surprise.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Oscar,
And congrats on.
Thank you so much, everyone.
One more. Let me get one more. Yes.
Okay.
Atusha, where are you? Run and get one more.
Run and get one more for me.
And you are being not in the balance. I need you to.
I am at your instructions, CEO. As you instruct, so do I do.
Every time let's take a photograph.
Ephraim? But as CEO saying, let's gather here for a picture. Oscar, please organize us how you want us to do it.
Yes.
I am not sure who will fit here.
Dr. Seba should stand.
I would have taken you to our reception.
Should stand next to Zia. Next to Zia, the other side. On the other side. Then she go thinkers, Peter and I stand over here. But today I told you to.
A group photo, a group picture.
Next year.
A group picture.
Yoga, people spoke, who said something? Let me sanitize you. No, we are going to carve it so that you can. Is that helpful? Stephen, just carve it.
To the photographer.
Just carve all the way to the chair. People like Yoga can stand behind Angelo.
I'm not seeing Mr.
Okay, now let Yoga can stand behind Angelo. So, wherever you stand.
Stephen, yeah, Shem, come in.
Behind. Then, Stephen, you come in.
You are towering over.
How is that? Next time, don't blame us for the camera that is. What's your game?
One more?
Okay.
CEO, as per your command, the two have come for gender balance and for Mr. Joga. Oscar, I am happy to hand over to
Just keep find out because you have said nothing.
Well, today, what one judge has called the lawlessness of Donald Trump and his staff was made.
Nana Habu Mouthwash ly'eddagala ettuufu lye nnakakasa mu kujjanjaba endwadde z'amannyo. Amannyo gakuluma bw'ossaayo ekyokya oba ekinnyogo gagasanyalala bw'osenya ovaamu olusaayisaayi oba ogayiza ludda lumu. Senyesa Nana naye weegendereza abafere tebakuguza kappa mu kkutiya musange mu famasi zonna. Nana yakakasibwa National Drug Authority.
Tukwanirizaako Yusuga Company Uganda Limited nga tukozesa ebyuma tukola enjiji eza buli kika. Amadirisa mu fashion ez'enjawulo. tuzimba twokya gate balcony grill ne fashion endala zonna. Isuga Engineering Company tusangibwa Mengo Mutebi Road ova ku Lubiringo okirire Katwe. Mwabali ebweru w'eggwanga osobola okutufuna website yaffe eri www.isugaengineering.company oba tukubireko 0757 29 26 64 oba 0786 23 93 36.
Musuubuzi munnange nawe walina ekirooto ky'okusuubulako e Dubai nenesanya okukwanjulira banno ba Clarion Integrated Logistics Solutions abeesigika era abeesimbu mu kutambuza ebyamaguzi by'okuva e Dubai paka e Kampala e Uganda nga biyita ku mazzi oba ku nnyonyi ku bbeeyi ejja mu nsawo yo. Twesige ku Clarion tukuyambeko okutuuka wotosobola kutuuka mu bwangu nga kagayise ku mazzi atwala ennaku 18 zokka ate eyakago atwala ennaku 3 zokka okutuukako ku woofiisi yo. Tusangibwa ku Diamond Trust Building omwaliiro gw'okuna akasenge 411. Kati osobola okukola oda y'obutereevu ng'oyogerako ne Nankabirwa Siteera ku +971 582 58 79 oba ku WhatsApp ku +256 756 846 772 oba jangu butereevu ku ofiisi zaffe ezisangibwa ku Hamri Airport Edeira mu Dubai. Clarion lw'okusaabaza ebyamaguzi byo mu bwesimbu okuva e Dubai paka e Kampala e Uganda mu nnaku 18 zokka.